In progress.
Yes, good morning, everybody. So sorry for the delay. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties. Um, Simon, I always joke, both with Action Zone and Luminary, Rosie and Jeremy are the brains of the operation. So since Rosie's not here today, nobody that watches us regularly is surprised that we had a little bit of technical difficulties.
That's funny.
How are you this morning?
Fantastic.
Well, I'm sure.
Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And of course, it was a great weekend because Army beat Navy.
Yes, it was. Woohoo, go Army. Always
Yeah,
love
go
that.
Army. That's awesome. Also, I don't know if we mentioned it to my audience, but we our cohort 15 graduated last week. Or last weekend. So we're pretty excited to watch their companies, build and grow with the experience through Action Zone. But so excited to have you here with us today at Action Zone. Just to refamiliarize you with it. It is a nonprofit that Rosie, Lee, and I, and a couple other veteran entrepreneurs launched in 2018. Since then, we've helped hundreds of companies, and they have over 500, I think 500 employees. I'm not good with the numbers, but I do know that they're reporting that they have earned revenue of over $19 million. So really excited about just the resiliency and the tenacity of folks that have gone through Action Zone. So Simon, tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an immigrant, now a U.S. citizen. My family's from India, and I've always had an entrepreneurial chromosomal makeup. Right from going back to my early childhood, I was selling greeting cards. I had two newspaper routes, the Chicago Tribune in the morning and the Chicago Daily News in the afternoon. I was always hustling. Was the youngest person to get a real estate license in Arizona. And that's how I paid my way through college. And I did some property management, put four doctors together, bought a fourplex, and I was managing two of those. And so I always had that spirit of working hard, but also working smart. I saw my friends were working 30, 40 hours at different restaurants. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to make money than to do that. And fortunately, I met some, great people along the way that were my mentors. Joined the army, exited from that. I was an interrogator linguist. And so a part of who I am is also service work. It just comes naturally to me that I want to help people. Um, in college, I took in a homeless person and I just brought him to and then I was staying with my parents. And when I went to Arizona State University, and this person was from India and they were without a job. And I'm like, okay, just come to our house and then we'll figure the rest of it out. And they stayed with us for almost 18 months, I think.
Oh, wow.
My parents were supportive. So it's part of our, family genetic makeup. And so after the army, I launched a drug and alcohol rehab center. And again, I like building organizations where purpose meets profit, and added a mental health component and then exited from that. From that, I discovered a pain point and I launched my first app called Help Me Now. It was on-demand mental health in 2015. So
Mm.
very, very early on, I was in
Yeah, very early.
telehealth and telemedicine, breaking barriers, like some, silly things about how if I'm licensed to do, psychiatry or psychology in Arizona, then I can't help somebody in California. And I just didn't, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Because if I'm depressed in Arizona and I'm depressed in California, depression is depression and needs to be treated the same way. And anyone who's good at it should be able to treat anybody anywhere in the world if they suffer from a specific ailment. And so exited from that. And then my journey has just been like Forrest Gump, at the right place at the right time. I was asked to start a medical TV talk show called White Coats with Dr. Tamer Rezik, and it was produced by Coptic Christians, and it gained worldwide viewership, almost 2-3 million viewers
Wow.
weekly. And well, I was asked to collaborate on a book on diversity and inclusion, and that did really well. Then wound up working with Google Cloud Platform, and then I retired all of 21 days at a very young age. And my wife told me, no, you have to get out of the house.
Get out of the house.
So the Thursday
So
morning,
before we move on with your journey, and I haven't met your wife, but I love her already. You also have a doctorate. What is your doctorate in?
in organizational leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, and so all of these, fantastic things happened to me after my personal battle with alcoholism when I, left the army, and my struggles from being a homeless veteran to then getting my master's and then pursuing my doctorate and helping others. And so it all kind of came together once I was able to kind of put the, as they say, put the plug on the jug. And then it just, as I when you go on an airplane, they always tell you to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help somebody else. It's kind of the same way.
Mhm.
I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how to help myself. So it all kind of started with that.
Mhm. Well, we're, so for those, again, watching, Simon and I just barely missed each other during my time at Bunker Labs. I think I was going out the door as you were coming in the door. And for, most of the people who watch us regularly know that I was a volunteer like you were, ambassador. We called them city leaders back then, pre-2020. And then I was on staff. And then Simon and I ran into each other again in Patriot Boot Camp. Yeah. And he said, I've been trying to get a hold of you for months. And I was like, you're probably sending emails to my bunker email. It was bouncing back or something. Yeah. So I'm really excited that, we were able to connect and, learn, for me to learn more about you and your journey and where you are now. And
Yeah, I love Bunker Labs. I like starting things from the ground up. So I went in as a veteran in residence program, and then I just loved it so much. Then I was asked to be a captain for the next cohort, and then from there an ambassador, and hopefully they'll select me for the upcoming cohort. And so a lot of great things, a lot of great changes happening at Bunker. So if you're out there and wondering if that's right for you, I strongly encourage you to look into it.
Yeah, that's I totally agree. And one of the things when we formed Action Zone, it was our intent to help founders get to a point where they could apply for incubators and accelerators, beyond the ideation stage that could help them with that. So the first cohort, the first veteran in residence cohort we had here in the Tampa Bay area, over half of them were Action Zone alumni. So we were really excited that, we were able to bring these two worlds together, which was completely the intent of Action Zone. And when we courted Bunker Labs to come launch a chapter here in Tampa. So, okay, you were saying your wife said, get out of the house.
Get out of the house. And she said, you've told me stories how you've pulled KP duty in the army. So really, to me, please go to Walmart, Waffle House. It doesn't matter, but you need to spend some time away. And so on my news feed, what was interesting was the H&R Block income tax course came up. And I thought, well, our tax situation is much simpler. I don't have a business. I'm not doing really anything in terms of revenue generating that's unique. So let me learn how to prepare taxes and save ourselves at least $1,500 that we're paying to the CPAs, and then maybe friends and family, right? It gets me out of the house through April 15th. And then they asked me to be a part of the leadership team. Our team had all of Texas except for Houston. And that's when I started discovering some gaps. And again, marginalized demographic groups like the Hispanic community, because the pain point I discovered after I left H&R Block is that there's fewer than 10,000 Spanish-speaking certified tax preparers. And in these various offices that I was driving into, we were constantly hanging up on Spanish-speaking customers with no habla español, no hablemos español. We just didn't have Spanish-speaking certified tax preparers in 99% of the offices. And they want to do the right thing and file their taxes. And I'm like, that's incredible that this problem even exists. And then even the IRS didn't have forms available in Spanish until 2021, April. And that to me was just astounding. And then they only had like the form available, but not the instructions. So that made no sense to me. But it's classic, bureaucratic move, right?
Mm.
And then eventually they had the form and the instructions, but not all the forms. So it was still a lot of gaps and a lot of uncertainty. And what I discovered in my research is that this is more than just a Hispanic story, but it's an immigrant story that people from all over the world come to America to pursue the dream. They want to do the right thing, but there's tremendous fear that if they make a mistake on the IRS form, it's going to lead to something horrible like deportation. So I wanted to really address those pain points of tax illiteracy, tax language illiteracy, financial illiteracy, fear, take away the complexity of filing taxes. And that was kind of the culmination of founding MasRefund.
That's great. But before MasRefund, you have a Refund Wizard or
Yeah,
Wizard.
so what happened was that I launched this company, and you have to get everything into trademarking and branding, and I started RefundWiz, which is the parent company. And so as I was developing this idea and I was going back into the community, because it's really core group right now is to support the underserved Hispanic community. So I had about a dozen people in my beta testing group. They were Hispanic, Latinos, and as I was building out the idea, testing the idea, adding features, they came to me one day. We were all sitting around and enjoying cervezas and giving me feedback. And they said, "Man, Simon, you can't go with RefundWiz. That's too gringo. And people aren't they're just not going to go for it." I'm like, "Okay, well, what do we name this product? I need some help." And so it was during that conversation that they're like, it's got to be Spanglish because nobody really speaks 100% Spanish in our generation. Nobody speaks 100% English. We kind of mixed the two together. And so that's how MasRefund came about. That the product works to give you a maximum refund. And they're like, yeah, we'll be able to like uh, adopt this more if it has a name that resonates with us. So that's how the branding change came about from RefundWiz, which is still the parent company, but our first financial product is now called MasRefund, the bilingual Spanish-English tax filing app.
That's incredible. When we were talking about this at Patriot Boot Camp, and you told me about the MasRefund and why you started this company, and what resonated with me the most, well, it like really broke my heart that there are Spanish-speaking Americans who are contributing to their society, contributing to our country's economy, doing right by their families, and they're not filing their taxes simply because they're afraid of deportation.
Yeah, and these are legitimate, hardworking individuals with social security numbers. So, I mean, we can put the politics aside. They just want to do the right thing. And this was, like I said, it really also became my personal story because my dad came here, brought his young family in the 1970s. And the path to residency and citizenship was simpler, much different back then. But the one thing that terrified him was making a mistake on his taxes. And like he was convinced, and walking around him between the time he sent the taxes in to until like end of August when he thought, okay, now everything is okay. It was like walking on eggshells, like nobody could get the mail. I mean, he was just convinced that he did something wrong. And back in the day, this was before the internet, everything was with a calculator. I mean, calculators had just come out for the common public in the early 70s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you did everything by hand. You sent it in by regular mail. There wasn't any immediate response like you made a mistake or everything was right. And so things took time. And so the fear that I recall growing up in his eyes every time tax time rolled around. And he was just a simple man, a simple job. So didn't have investments, nothing like that. So just a, middle income, family. but still that fear was just so intense in him. And that look in his eyes reminded me, when I saw the look in these people's eyes, reminded me of the look in his eyes. I thought, we have to do something. This is no way to live. You're just filing taxes.
Mhm.
So that's when I was really motivated to help the community.
Yeah, and I was just like, that is it's just got to be a horrible feeling. And I felt so drawn to this that I was like, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
And so since I've been curious, with this problem, National Hispanic Heritage Month, was recent in September, and I was actually asked to speak, on some Latin Chamber panels, and I'm going to events, and so I'm asking people, hey, there's this company. What are your thoughts? And every single person I spoke to, their eyes just were like, "That's incredible, and I want to talk to you more about it." So talk a little bit about like how that MasRefund works, because I think that for somebody like me who's not really technical, when you say AI is helping me with my taxes, I'm like, what?
Yeah. The best way to describe it is that if anyone has used their smartphone to take a picture of anything, then they can use this app to file their taxes. Right. So it all kind of came together, during the pandemic. I took some coding classes online, and I saw people were depositing their checks using their banking app. And the AI would recognize the dollar amount, the account number, even if it was a handwritten check by grandma who sent it to you for, a Christmas check. And you could deposit those handwritten checks using that software. And I thought, well, if the software is there to recognize these different handwritings and different boxes, then I wonder if I can develop something using AI, and you answer some questions in the workflow. So we really made MasRefund, which is our tagline is, we've made tax filing as easy as uno, dos, tres. And so uno, you sign up, dos, you scan your driver's license, you scan your ID, you scan your W-2, and then tres, you have to pay for it. It's only $24.99, and you scan your debit card and you submit it to the IRS. So we really made it that simple, all from the comfort of your phone. And you don't need to know anymore. Do I need a Schedule 1? Do I need a Schedule B? Do I need, and where do these numbers go? And now that I know I need everything, but then I still don't know how to transfer various numbers from various schedules. So that's where the AI kicks in. As you answer some of the questions in the workflow, it knows what you need to get the maximum refund available to you.
Mm. And so $24.99, that's for single filers.
Yeah, so I was bootstrapping this company, and as I was bootstrapping it, I was trying to figure out a way where I could, not completely burn through my 401k and my savings, and still get the product out there to do the beta test, product market fit, get some feedback. And so 24.99 is for single filers with with W-2s, and you can have as many W-2s as you want. Other companies charge more the more W-2s you have. And then we've now added married filing jointly to the mix. So if you're a couple and you file your taxes together, you can use this app, and it's only $49.99. And then when we launched this app earlier this year for just single filers, that was part of the feedback, is you really got to take this to people who are married. And then the other feedback was, okay, you're new. I get it. This is all modern technology. But if it's wrong and I get the letter from IRS, how are you going to support me? So again, a legitimate question. And so we've launched another product called Mas Comfort for $9.99. And that basically is an insurance product. And basically, if you get a letter from the IRS and you give us a call, email, chat, text, whatever, upload the letter, and then we'll go ahead and represent you and figure out what's going on, what happened, and represent you in those conversations.
That's awesome. Back to me doing just my own customer discovery is what we teach in Action Zone with this, with your product. I found that college students have the similar fear in our Spanish-speaking Americans have similar fears submitting college applications, not necessarily for deportation, but on the application it says, do you understand that you're over 18 and you are, if the United States were to enact a draft, then you'd be eligible for draft.
Right.
And so because of the lack of Spanish speaking staff members, or the people who just understand the culture, a lot of Spanish speaking Americans are not applying for college because they think that they immediately are going to be going into the military.
Right.
And
Yeah,
which I just
and those
find,
conceptions are scary. Yeah, they're really scary. And it's a very experiential. Like if you know, like my nephews and nieces were born in America, right? But they don't experience those challenges that as an immigrant, their dad experienced, or their uncle like me that I experienced. And even me less so, because I was really small when I came here. So I really don't think myself as differently as a true immigrant who comes much later in life.
mhm.
I've always followed red, white, and blue. I mean, joining the army was a no-brainer. Serving my country was a no-brainer. So maybe I'm not like the best analogy for that, but it's a unique immigrant experience. And if you go to another country and you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture, I think then you'll be able to kind of commiserate what those feelings are like.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of on a mission to, spread the word about MasRefund and to help Spanish speaking Americans feel comfortable with attending college. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not, no, I'm not, one of those people is like, you have to get a formal education. I think, trade for whatever you want to do to advance your knowledge and your career opportunities, I'm all for it. But I think that there's a message that we need to reach our Spanish speaking Americans, that these opportunities are here for you to help you, not to deport you or hold you back. And it's heartbreaking to me.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for your support and having me. You're absolutely right that something simple like, the tax returns that I was preparing for the Hispanic community and even others, when I saw somebody getting $4, 5, $6,000 in refund, I would tell them that's not a good thing. And they're like, what do you mean it's not a good thing? And I would tell them that you could actually pocket this money every paycheck, every pay period, if you just tweak your W-4. And I said, I would even help you for free. Go to your employer, go to your HR manager, get a copy of your existing W-4, bring a blank one, and I'll help you fill it out. And they were so afraid of losing their job. They're like, oh no, I like my job. I'm not going to disturb anybody. And I'm saying, you're not disturbing anyone. This is so that instead of living paycheck to paycheck, you get more money instead of using Uncle Sam as a savings account.
Yeah.
And getting that big lump sum later on. But there's just still so much fear around all of these processes. And that's the part that I really want to help and help support
Yeah.
the community.
That is so heartbreaking. So let me ask you a question, because most of our viewers are business owners. If they're a business owner, can they use MasRefund? If not, is there plans for that?
So this is for individual, federal, and state filing. And so this is not for small business owners. Currently, it's not for Schedule Cs if you have a side hustle. This is really right now in this current version for those who have W-2s. And then as we grow, we recently closed our small pre-seed funding round. So now we have some rocket fuel to keep adding product features. But if you have a small business and you have employees, and it's really a perfect price point for somebody that is price sensitive and they don't have access to CPAs and can, pay $1,500 to get the best. Now they have the best technology available to them at a very affordable price point. And that is the combination of getting the best for the least amount of money. And that's why MasRefund really fits that sweet spot.
Sweet spot. What's the cost savings from using, MasRefund versus H&R Block?
Yeah, so
or any of those kind of tax
any other,
returns?
on average for a single filer, it's about $60. And so for us, it's 24.99. And then if you buy that financial product like Moss Comfort or their version of it, that's usually $29. Ours is $9.99. And more importantly is time, right? You don't have to drive anywhere, make an appointment. You don't have to know tax software and have access to a PC or the internet. This is all from your phone. It's
Mhm.
it's as easy as ordering an Uber. Just picture, 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 send.
That's awesome. Well, like I said before, as soon as I met you, I adore you. I think you're phenomenal. You've got the biggest heart, and I think that for a non-Spanish speaking American, you know, to recognize these gaps and want to help, you know, a subset of our community. I just think that that's what it's all about, right? That's what
Yeah.
serving is about. It doesn't matter if you're part of that community or not. You just you want to help.
Yeah, it's just part of humanity. I see something that isn't right, and which is what the military teaches us, right? We go after areas and different parts of the world to help the helpless.
Mhm. Yeah. So
That's,
if somebody, we're coming up at the end of the year, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show so that we can help spread the word.
thank you.
It's how do they find Mouse Refund?
Yeah, so MasRefund's available in the Apple and Google Play Store. So you can just type in MasRefund and it'll pop. It's free download and you can check it out. And when you get your W-2s, file right away, and it takes about 5 minutes. And then you'll be first in line to get that refund check.
Yeah. And what's your website?
www.masrefund, MasRefund.com.
Yeah. And on the website, there's a place, is there like frequently asked questions or they can reach
Yeah,
out if they have questions about it?
absolutely. We're actually redesigning the website and it'll be ready by end of the year. So we're adding some really cool features to it. We're changing the look and feel based on, customer feedback of the app also. So making it, more pleasing for the eye. Remember, I was bootstrapping it initially. And so there's only so much you can do with the limited funds that one has. And so now that we have received some investments, we're taking a look at revamping the website available in Spanish, also building it out in English. The app is natively built in Spanish. So I've spent all the resources that I had really making sure that the app sounds like something that resonates with the Spanish speaking community. So it's not artificial intelligence translated. The AI is only in the mathematics of it and creating the algorithm,
Mhm. I think
but
that's
it's
a
very
very important
personable.
detail to share that the AI is just for the math part,
Yeah.
the translation. So one thing that I found fascinating in our times that we've talked about this is that in because Action Zone, like we even that we can meet an entrepreneur where they're at, you know, they can have the idea still in their head and afraid to verbalize it or already, you know, generating millions of dollars. But we really love the ideation space and, you know, watching our founders go through their customer discovery and, you know, figuring out, you know, do they really have the solution to a problem that people are willing to pay for and, you know, things like that. And so with you and part of your customer feedback, and this is why it's super important to provide feedback to small businesses, you know, Google ratings and sending emails or whatever, is that the customer feedback was they would prefer to have it in English.
Yeah. So what was really interesting is that because it's money and it's financial stuff and it's happening in the US, the preference by a certain demographic group was that they felt it was more um, legitimate, I guess, if it was available in English. So they prefer financial terms, legal terms to be in English. And so the app is very unique in that once the user downloads the app, they have a choice of picking inside the app whether they want it in English or in Spanish. And so if the demographic group, for example, if we use age as a criteria, so somebody who is, let's say, 55 and older, who isn't as tech savvy, studies show that they're more comfortable with going in language. But younger generations who have been here for a while, they're more familiar with English, would prefer the app load in English. So we wanted to give those options and meet the customer where they were at as we were doing these psychological profiles on, what adoption looks like for each person.
Oh, that's interesting. And they can toggle back and forth English, Spanish.
Yes, they can toggle back and forth inside the app.
Oh, that's
Committed
interesting.
to, right?
And so, if there was a child, an adult child or grandchild that has MasRefund, and they're helping, their parents or their grandparents, can they all file on one app that's downloaded, or each one of them has to download an app?
Yeah, it's a great question. So each one would have to download their own app on their phone. I mean, technically you could do it, and because inside the app, it asks you to use an email address so the IRS can communicate with you, since we're not doing technology, right? So not only is your personal address, physical address important to match with the IRS records, but also an email address. So if there is something wrong, for example, with the tax return, they would notify the tax filer, they would notify management team at MasRefund, and then we would immediately know that this is something that we need to work on. And our customer service can proactively call the customer and say, hey, look, this is the error code we're getting. Let's take a look at what happened, right? Which is the beauty of that type of a scenario happening is so rare because the technology is so good. Usually this type of stuff happens when people are manually entering data in.
Mm-hmm.
So when you use third-party software, or when you have a tax preparer doing this for you, they're looking at your W-2, and then it's easy to transpose a number. If your social security number is 352 and somebody puts 325,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when that error from IRS, the kickback would happen. So yeah, you can use the same app. You can ask your grandparents, and because you want to make them independent. Right, that's the whole beauty behind MasRefund is, like, my mom knew how to take pictures using the phone. So I really didn't want to do my parents' taxes, right? Because there's also a whole sorts of dynamics behind, do you really know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Are you staying on top of the rules? And I've seen you do your homework in college and you want to, so I didn't want to do that. So listen, guys, I had dad download the app and he's always done the taxes. And so he did the taxes for them. And he took he took his driver's license picture, his social security information, and then my mom's driver's license and her social security statement, annual statement, and they were able to file together, right? So that's what you really want to do, is kind of reverse train them instead of parents teaching kids how to do taxes. Kids are now going back saying, hey, I got this cool app, grandma. And that actually happened. It's one of our testimonials from the past season. He's like, my grandma's from Mexico. I can't wait to download this app. He downloaded it for her and just said, here, I'm going to watch you use it. And she goes, really? That's all I have to do is take a picture of this in a well-lit room? He goes, yep, that's it. So
That's incredible.
yeah.
Well, Simon, I could keep talking about this because,
Yeah, me too.
like I said, I just was so fascinated. Well, again, first just heartbroken, and then fascinated by MasRefund, and I'm just excited to see how many people you're able to help through your app.
Yeah, and one thing that I haven't talked about, is the military connection, and this really has a dual purpose. And once I can get the customers, grow the revenue, I definitely want to make this app available for, the military. Because I remember, I was married, I was stationed at Fort Benning. My wife was in Fort Huachuca, and just filing taxes, it was just a pain, right? Because we were married but separated, but geographically. And with this app, we can resolve all of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely will be a value add to service members, because doing taxes, especially when you're just like you said, when you're young, you're still trying to figure it out, and you got a young family and you're geographically separated,
Yeah,
trying to go back and forth, especially, at our age, it was way back then, going back and forth with tax preparation when you're not together.
yeah, it was really a pain point. And then even, I mean, I remember in basic training, no, I think we spent maybe 2 hours out of the entire, I think it was a 12-week boot camp on financials.
Hmm.
And not enough to really learn what's DFAS, what do I do with the W-2? I mean, I remember so many of my friends just didn't even file. They're like, whatever, we'll see what happens. It was just a very, cavalier attitude around that. And they were going to get money back. And I'm like, you guys, you're going to get money back and file. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, thank you again for joining me. Sorry for the technical challenges that we had this morning, but everybody knows that it's probably going to happen with Valerie. Action Zone is taking applications for our next cohort that starts in February. It is going to be virtual so that we can provide our program to all of the veterans and military spouses in the state of Florida. And don't forget, if you have a civilian business partner, they're welcome to join. They're encouraged to join the cohort as well, not in place of the veteran, but if we can make sure that everybody's on the same sheet of music, we like to do that. And the same thing with the spouse, even if the spouse is not part of the company, because entrepreneurship, while it may not be a family business, it's definitely a family affair.
Indeed.
Yeah, for sure. So again, MasRefund, you can download it if you would like, and then MasRefund.com. And Simon, always a pleasure. Super, super excited about this.
Thank you so much for having me. Super grateful.
Yeah. All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.